Hello, welcome to Q&A Wednesday. Today our question comes from Morgan and she asks, could this pose/stretch hurt a person's back if they are in their 60s? Assuming no injuries, is that an issue? So let me take a moment to show you what the stretch is that Morgan's asking about because she attached a picture to her message, and then I will happily answer that question. For the stretch, it's a side-lying spinal rotation. So the person is laying on their side, hips and knees stacked, arms in front like this. And then the stretch is opening up towards the sky as you rotate your arm across your body, and then bringing it back like that. So again, it's opening and closing, and making sure you're always breathing during that stretch. So Morgan, that stretch is an excellent one to work on spinal mobility and stretching throughout the spine. The beauty of it is that when the knees and hips are bent to a 90-degree angle, it locks out the low back enough that it gives it some stability, so that ideally when a person rotates and opens that top arm, they're not hinging at the low back, but instead they're getting rotation in their middle back and some stretching across the front of their chest if they have tightness in that area. Now, one side often feels different than another, so it's really important to always work within a comfortable range of motion, even if that's different on one side than another. So, for example, if I were to do this and I had a lot of tightness, and I got to about there with my arm, and that was as far as it felt like it wanted to go, then I would either stay there, or because that can put a lot of pressure on your shoulder, I would maybe bend and put my hand and rest it on my shoulder. So then the movement is still happening, but it's going to be a little less aggressive than having to hold the whole weight of your arm. So that's a slight modification. The other thing I would say is that I often recommend people put a pillow under their head for support to keep their neck in a really good alignment. For some, it's fine to rest the head on the floor, but for others, that can kink the neck a little bit. So always trying to maintain a good neutral spine. Now, this stretch would not be a good one for someone who has any issues with their back, as far as if it's a new or ongoing back injury, if there's any suspect of having a disc herniation or a disc bulge, osteoporosis, spinal stenosis, spinal alisthesis, and if you have any of these things, you would recognize those names most likely. But basically, any discomfort in the back that has not been evaluated and treated by a medical professional, by a physical therapist, I recommend you always get that checked out before you start any kind of new stretches or exercise routines, to make sure that, number one, you find out exactly what's going on in your back, and number two, that what you are doing can be tailored to fit your needs if you have an injury of any type going on in your spine, hips, or pelvis, particularly with that stretch, but really in general. So that, Morgan, is my A to your Q, and I hope that if that stretch feels like a good one for you to perform, that you go ahead and do that, and if not, or if there is any injury, or if any of you have an injury, before trying that stretch or any other stretch, you check with a physical therapist to get further treatment before performing a new program. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye.